We'll call to order the December 8th meeting of the Grand Traverse Resource Management Administration Committee, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for roll call, please.
20 more years.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece?
Present.
Axbauer? Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Here.
Stepka?
Here.
Friend? Here. Inman?
Here.
Chairman Hooper?
Here. We have approval of the minutes.
Sure. Support.
We have a motion to support. Any, Ross?
As amended, right?
As amended, yes, with the new packet we have.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Now we have time for the first public comment, and we wish to address the board. Please step forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
Move for approval as presented.
Support.
We have a motion and support by Friend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We have any special order of businesses?
No.
No. Then we have the consent calendar, please, Linda.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. 1, Grand Traverse Conservation District monthly reports. 2, Housing Liaison monthly report and program status. 3, Road Commission monthly report. B, approval. EAP renewal for 2011. 2, Teamsters Health Department unit. 3, Teamsters Central Dispatch unit. 4, MSU Extension Staffing Plan Amendment request. 5, Staffing Plan Amendment due to approval of 2011 budgets. And 6, Sheriff Office staffing update.
Okay, any member of the public wish to pull anything from the consent calendar? Would any member of the board? Ross?
Yeah, B5, thank you.
Okay, B5, staffing plan?
Yeah, I want to point out on those really should be in the other order. 5 should be 4 and 4 should be 5 because 5 happens before 4. So it's just a chronological thing, but if you look at those, you'll see that they're kind of reversed.
Okay.
No, thank you. I do have a question on one of them, but it doesn't have anything to do with the approval, so I'll ask under the administrator's update regarding it, but leave it on here for approval.
Okay, well, let's do this B5 just before the administrator's update then, if that's okay.
Sure.
Move for the approval of the consent calendar with exception of B5.
Second.
That's moved by Inman, support by Richardson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say, have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Fleece?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Yes.
Stepka?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Hooper?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I have to add, I thought we had, it was announced, but on that A and B, 6, the Sheriff's Office staffing update was pulled by HR. They wanted it pulled, is that correct?
Well, actually, that's what I pulled.
Oh, I thought you pulled 5.
Well, I did, but I wasn't sure which one.
Okay, all
You
right.
know, I
Which one we pulled?
I'm sorry.
What was approved and what was pulled?
Yep.
We want to pull 5 and 6, I believe.
well, I had a question that I called Jen Seaman about yesterday, and she said she would bring the answer this morning. So whichever one is appropriate, it doesn't.
I think we have 2 different things, but yes, the sheriff's office actually wanted that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
there's-
So do we need 1 or 2 pulled? I mean, 2 items or 1 item pulled?
2,
Okay,
number
motion to...
5 and 6. So you already pulled 5, but we should pull 6 and talk, and
Motion to reconsider approval of consent calendar.
Or
Okay, motion by Friend, support by Inman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we need somebody to make a motion to pull 6. I wouldn't think.
no, I think
Start
the
voting.
motion should be to pull 5, excuse me, to put 5 later in the agenda, but to remove 6 from this agenda. They don't want you to take
Remove
action on
5 and
6.
So I move to approve the consent calendar with the removal of B5 and B6.
Okay.
Support.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
It's too early in the morning for all this confusion.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Stepka?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece?
Yes.
And Chairman Hooper.
Yes. Okay, let's go to 5. We're not going to do 6 at all, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so page 34.
Are we going to do that in?
Are we going to do this together, or?
Number 6 is not being pulled. We're asking it to be removed from the agenda. We're not ready to act on it. So that's okay. You've pulled it.
That's my misunderstanding.
Yes, and so we won't act on 6, but you had questions about 5.
Anybody know what the hell we're doing?
Okay, so, right now you're going over 5.
That's correct.
Afterwards, just so the minutes show, go over 6 and table it if you would.
That's
Just
fine.
So it's not confusing when you go back and read the minutes.
I guess my question's in regard to item number 5 is during the budget process, we talked about the fact of not deleting some of these positions from the staffing plan for a period of time to make sure that we didn't need to reinstate those.
Yep. We've had discussions back and forth on this with staff, because what happens is the staffing plan is what governs the positions that are advertised, and many of the departments use the staffing plan to determine vacant positions. That's how we tie vacant positions together, okay? And so HR staff has asked that we pull them from the staffing plan. But what I'm suggesting, I talked with Dean and with Jen, and what we're suggesting is we'll keep a list of these positions. Every one of these positions that you might consider reinstating will need to have a budget amendment, whether it's this year or next year, to put them back in. So it has to come back to you in any event. And our plan is, when we bring it back to you, we'll have this list and we'll tell you, here's the funding for this position. This was one of those positions that you wanted to consider, but we'll add it back into the staffing plan, and that'll be our recommendation. And it's really an administrative reason for pulling it from the staffing plan, so that departments aren't trying to fill positions that aren't there. We want to try to make sure we keep track of only positions that are funded.
Well, I was just concerned because we had the discussion during the budget process that we wanted to make sure to hold these positions in the staffing plan in case we did need to reinstate some of them.
And I think as long as you're okay with it, I'm really fine with this, because it has to come back to you anyway for money. And since it has to come for money, we're going to just keep the list, and we'll come back and tell you this was one of those positions, or this was not one of those positions.
I think it makes a lot more sense. I mean, you've altered the structure of some of these departments, and this just reflects that.
Yeah, and we can easily keep track of that and let you know which ones they were. I'm guessing most of you will remember which ones they are anyway.
Well, I remember we still have positions that we removed from the Sheriff's Department in 2003, so.
Yeah.
Ross?
Okay, so can we talk about, okay, my specific question was, the original budget proposal, the very first one, that had all the layoffs and everything, talked about removing 4 positions, four deputies
Yes.
from the road patrol. And then 3 of those were reinstated, or not reinstated, but retained. Thank you. This has been a problem we've had all through this process. Retained, and then, when we allocated that first batch of money from wherever it all came from. Anyway, and then later the sheriff came at the very end of the process and asked for the 4th position to be retained, and we quickly, I believe, agreed to that as well. And so my problem was I thought we ended up not removing any deputies, and that was basically the context of my phone call to Jen Seaman yesterday.
It was a good question. We were all going, we couldn't remember. Jen, what did you find?
I talked with Dean too, and he has in his records that we did not reinstate that last one. Right about at that same time, we found out Long Lake Township was not going to bring back, and so that's where that came in right about that same time.
So actually, the one that was removed could be attributed to Long Lake Township, the removal of the community police officer.
Correct.
Okay. Thank
Yep.
you.
A motion?
Move to approve the staffing plan amendment due to the approval of 2011 budget as presented. Support.
Motion by Inman, support by Fleece. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same? Okay, I think we're on to the administrator's report.
Well, no, there's number 6.
Oh,
But I would ask you not to table it, I would just ask you not to take action on it.
Ross.
Would it be smarter to just officially remove it from the agenda?
That would probably be the cleanest.
I would move to remove item B6, the Sheriff's Office staffing update from the agenda.
Support.
A motion by Richardson, support by Friend. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Okay, now I think we can move on to administrator's report.
Thank you. First of all, I think you all received notice of the $1 million grant we got for dam removals. I just want to thank everyone who was involved in that. That was a big project. We have $1.1 million there from the Great Lakes Fisheries Trust, and we had about $1.1 million we had $1 million from Fisheries Trust in this grant, and another $1.1 million that came in tribal grants. And that money is now going to be more than enough to take care of the Brown Bridge Dam, and it starts our way on working on Sabin. We put in an application on behalf of the county for the Fry Foundation for $500,000, and we think that there's at least a reasonable likelihood that at the end of this, we will have enough money to consider removing both Brown Bridge and Sabin, and potentially at the same time. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
I think that's exciting that we'll see progress actually in next year.
Yep, the design and engineering should all be done, and contractors hired hopefully for starting removal in 2012. So that's I think a positive move, and things I think you're going to see are going to start moving faster. Boardman's going to take longer because of the implications of the road and the cost involved, but the other ones I think will happen in the relatively near future, and I expect that Brown Bridge, in all likelihood, will start their drawdown in the spring of 2011, and they're going to drop that. I think they have to draw that down about 14 or 15 feet, just like we did Boardman, So only they'll do it over a much slower period of time than what we did. If you remember, we did that, I think, in about 40 days or something like that. So that's going well. I want to also point out that we're in contact with the MDNRE, or whatever they're called today, and they're splitting again.
Next month.
They're splitting again, but those folks are totally in sync with us in terms of the fact that we will not have the dams removed by 2012, and we'll be modifying that agreement and bringing it back to you with an extended date on that, because they know the progress that we're making and they're very pleased with it. So that agreement that said we had to have the dams out by 2012, or we had to have them rebuilt in 2011, I think, that's going to be modified and extended out as long as we continue to make progress, and we've had good discussions with them. I wanted to remind you, I think you all received a copy, the interviews for the potential insurance agents by the Personnel Review Committee. It's made up of Jen and Dean and some outside individuals with human resource backgrounds, the same people that helped us last time for the most part. The interviews will be Monday, the 13th, from 2 to 5. 2 companies will be interviewed up in room 300. Commissioners are invited if they'd like to attend. And the third interview will be Friday, next Friday at 8:30 till probably about 10 o'clock. So if anybody's interested, you're welcome to attend those interviews. And then they'll be making a recommendation, and we'll be bringing that back to you shortly after that.
What was the time on Monday?
Monday is 2, it starts, and there's 2 of them. They'll probably go to about 5. They're going to have, I think, an hour for their presentation and a half hour for questions, and then Friday at 8:30, and it'll probably go to about 10.
Dennis, how many proposals did you receive, and which 3 companies are you interviewing?
8 proposals, Jen?
Correct.
8 proposals, and they'll be interviewing Public Employees Benefit Solutions, Great Northern Benefits, and Cadillac Insurance. Those were the 3 selected by the committee to interview. We've also held a meeting Monday with the representatives of the Sheriff's Department, the jail, mental health, and Commissioner Friend and I attended to work on this, an interim agreement on mental health services in the jail, and then to look at the longer-term agreement. I think we had a good discussion. I think there were a lot of good ideas presented. There are still some significant issues to work through. But the plan here will be to get an interim agreement that will take us through September of next year, which is required by the state for the mental health agency to allow for general fund dollars from the mental health budget to be used in operations of jail services. And so we will work on that interim agreement because we think coming to a more permanent agreement will take probably 6 months or more. We have 6 counties that we're trying to work that out with. Mental health has been very cooperative in this. There are a full range of issues, as you can imagine, and the services are really kind of concentrated in the jail and even expanded in our jail because of the extra psychiatrists that we hire to provide services. We talked about medicines, prescriptions, and the way they're prescribed. We talked about time that's necessary to provide the service we need to these inmates, and the distinction between mental health people that are committed to the jail that are enrolled in mental health services through CMH, and others that receive some sort of mental health services that are not mental health clients. And you know, what I think I took some comfort in, and I'd like Beth to comment on it too, but I took comfort in the fact that the CMH realizes the relationship with us, wants to maintain the relationship with us. They also realize that for their clients, and we're trying to identify numbers, but for their clients are treated, they end up in our jail for whatever reason, and when they're released, they're clients again. So they want to make sure that there's a continuum of services there. The problem is that the law is real clear. When they're in our custody, they're at our cost. So they may be Medicare reimbursed to CMH before they go into the jail. The minute they go into the jail, it becomes our cost, and it stays that way till they leave. But in addition to that, you know, we think there are more services that we need, and we need to get down to really clarifying what those services are. So in addition to working on this interim agreement, we're going to try to put together what we think is a reasonable staffing plan of what level of service needs to be in that jail in order to care for the inmates that we have there, and to give us some statistical information so we can really see what percentage of the population is impacted by those services and what they need. And remember, you know, while we each have our own, you know, kind of position on this, I explained to the jail people that it's important for them to make sure that those people are cared for, and they believe that. They feel that way. But the better they're cared for in the jail, the easier they are to manage and maintain in that jail system. So we really have to work together on it, and I think clearly we both sides felt it was better to maintain the relationship and to try to, you know, refine the relationship than to look to go elsewhere. So that's kind of my read on it. I don't know, Commissioner, did you have anything to add?
Just what I said when I was there, which I think a lot of the commissioners would have been heartened by listening to the discussion. I think that it was a great meeting where everybody kind of got to, you know, say where they were having difficulties and tough times. I think the agreement that Greg put together with a couple tweaks, just making sure that we're not opening up the enabling resolution or tying our hands for any future services. But if we put that into the agreement, I think it's appropriate to sign because as the goals of the agreement state right on there, it's for CMH and the county to collaborate. It's to make sure over the next year we're adhering to DCH requirements and to advocate jointly for any resolution of the issue that's presented itself because of the Attorney General's position. And then during that year, as Dennis said, you know, kind of define exactly what populations you're serving and who's responsible for which populations, and what services they need. And, you know, from there, that staffing plan, that, you know, how are you going to use your resources to address exactly what services you're trying to do. So, as I said, I think in a year, we'll have commissioners not complaining, happy.
And we also, as Commissioner Friend said, I think it's really important this next year we work with MAC to try to make sure that the legislature addresses this issue and hopefully clarifies that general fund monies of mental health can be used to supplement services in the jail, or at least refine the definitions in a way that allow our $682,000 to be used additionally above what they're currently being used. So
It's really, that opinion has really put CMHs in a tough spot. As Greg said, I think the time before he was here, it's kind of a no-win situation for them.
Greg is clearly not looking to move away from providing services to the jail. He wishes to be partners in this, but he's got this, administrative decision that they're saying he can't use those dollars, and he's concerned about being audited and having to repay money. And so that's really what we're trying to work through.
And I understand the situation the CMH is in with this Attorney General's decision, and I absolutely do not agree with the opinion of the Attorney General, but that's not for me to say particularly, or I can't do anything about that. One of my concerns has been, and we've talked about it on multiple occasions, is the fact that we all would like to consider diversion of some of these people, but in order to do the diversion, we have to be able to do something with these people immediately upon the time of their arrest before they're booked into the jail. And when the assessments are out 3, 4, 5 days, sometimes, the timelines are not acceptable. And I think that's one of the problems that we have. And even when we look at the statistics that we've seen, how many people are actually arrested that are registered CMH clients, and how many true assessments are actually done by CMH. We're just not meeting the needs of their own client base, not to mention any other people that we pick up that may have mental health issues. We have their registered clients that are coming into the jail, and they may never get seen for an assessment. So I think it's an ongoing discussion. We're not going to answer it this morning. We couldn't answer it last month, and it's going to continue to run. But I think Dennis is right. The legislature has to make a determination about whether or not the monies that we are paying in, or the state is going to provide funding for CMH patients.
What's interesting about this, I think that you can take away from this, is this, hopefully from what I've seen on Monday, I think it was, is that this won't be something in 6 months where you go, well, didn't we talk about that 6 months ago, and we talked about that 3 months before and 2 months before that. I think that what I saw is kind of a meeting of the minds and how we're going to move forward, so that when you are talking about this, that there's progress made.
I think so. All right, thank you. Next thing I just wanted to mention to you, one of our department head, Chuck Lurchin, is on a part-time medical leave. Chuck's was off for a while, and he's working 20 hours a week, but we expect him back at 40 hours a week soon. Staffing has been rearranged. Jen's been working with them. I've been working with them. Things are going fine over there now, but we just wanted you to be aware of that. In terms of resource recovery, there's action on several fronts there. Resource recovery met last week, and it appears that there will be need for an amendment to the solid waste plan. Evidently, it looks like the state will not approve the American Waste facility, and that they're going to request that it be actually put into the plan. I just found this out from Bob yesterday afternoon, details to be forthcoming. But I know this, Bob will be bringing you a letter of explanation at the Ways and Means meeting next week. He'll also be asking you to establish the 14-member planning committee, which we had 4 years ago, and they went through a good year of work, and we never really adopted the changes. But my understanding from Bob is he's going to be bringing them a specific item to consider, adding this American Waste station to the solid waste plan. And then it would, if you decide to do that, then it would have to go back to all the communities and be approved by 2/3 of them in order for that to take place. This does not impact their ability to do recycling at the site. The free recycling that they've offered, they are allowed to be a recycling center, and they're currently doing that. But this is the full expansion of their source separation project and their full recycling plan. So I wanted you to be aware, and I don't have a lot more details on it, but you're going to see something on it next week and be asked to take some quick action on it.
That must be why they were trying to call me then, right?
It's possible. The second action that the Resource Recovery Council took in response to the request from the county board to make a decision on a funding source, they voted to recommend to you that you use a millage to collect funds for operating resource recovery services. And I'm just passing that on to you without any, I don't have any details of it, but Bob told me that yesterday, and they'll be forwarding something to you on
Strengthen their
that.
coffee. What time do they meet?
So I just wanted to pass that on to you. I wanted to also mention to you that I've been talking with the Pavilions. The Pavilions is looking at the possibility of some expansion, perhaps some assisted living centers on the common site. And it's in the very preliminary stages, but, you know, you approve those things, so I just wanted you to know. Corey came over and was talking to me about that, and they're investigating some options in that regard, and wanted you to be aware that that was taking place. I don't have a lot of details on it. He just wanted to kind of introduce the subject, and I said that I thought that the board would be open to the idea if it financially made sense, and there was a need that was demonstrated in the community for more assisted living, so they're looking into that. Also, he told me that the Medicare rates, as they turned out, the change in the Medicare rates had a little didn't really have a negative effect on our medical care facility. In fact, we ended up a little better off as a result of it. And so the concern that we had early on a year ago about Medicare rates being changed and how they would affect aging homes really didn't affect public aging homes in a negative way. So we're in pretty good shape in that regard. There's also, from an early agreement that was worked out many years ago with Munson Hospital in building the parking deck over there, and in transferring some property, there was some responsibility that our pavilions held in terms of some environmental cleanup on a piece of property. It turns out that there is one piece of that still remains to be cleaned up by pavilions. It was never followed through on completely. And so Corey is taking that on now, and he's getting that environmental assessment completed and taken care of. Money is available in his budget for that, so it's all being done. But I wanted you to know we had received a request from Munson that this still needed to be cleaned up, and I wasn't aware of it, and I don't think Corey was. It was an agreement probably made 15 years ago. So I got with Ross Childs, and we kind of figured out what we needed to do, and Corey's in the middle of that assessment now. There are a couple of the last-minute things. I realized that I can avoid being fined by adding things to the agenda if I just put it under my administrative update and give it to you. This came just yesterday, and I just, you know, the state has changed the rules on selling liquor on Sunday mornings.
Oh.
Okay. We got this on December 7th. They said that you have the right to opt out of allowing liquor to be sold in your county if you so choose, on that Sunday morning timeline, but you have to have a decision made by December 16th. So,
So we can make this,
you know, so.
we can essentially make a decision now.
So I'm bringing this to your attention. The fact is that they've changed it so that you can now offer mixed spirit drink, beer or wine between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 a.m. on Sunday to 2 a.m. on Monday. And if you want to prohibit that, you have to take action before December 16th in order to do so.
Otherwise, it'll just happen?
Otherwise, you're going to be like everybody else in the state. So, you know, if you decided this was an issue you wanted to deal with, we could set up a special board meeting before Ways and Means next week, and you could, you know, hold a public hearing if you wanted, and you could take some final action and still get it to them. I don't know whether it's anything that the board has any serious interest in, but I passed it out to you, and, you know, per our rules, if 3 of you want to have a special meeting on this, you could notify us. It would need to be done by tomorrow, and then we could set up a meeting for next Wednesday if you so choose. So just got this yesterday.
Well, if I read this correctly, even if it passes, even if it comes effect, if we decide it has a negative impact, we can in the future prohibit Sunday sales.
That's what it looks like, although I sent it to Bob Cooney to get a clarification on that.
It says, you know, if we do not receive, but you do retain the right in the future to prohibit Sunday sales. So.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, but that would be much more difficult to accomplish once the licenses have been issued. And I personally, just from a law enforcement point of view, have a problem with this piece of legislation. All this is a move by the state, in my opinion, to garner more money off the sale of liquor. And it just makes Sunday another daily day of bars and stores that sell alcoholic beverages doing business. And I'm opposed to it, and I think that it would behoove us to deny this in Grand Traverse County. And I'm not a teetotaler by any stretch of the imagination, but if you look at our traffic deaths, everything else associated with alcohol, I don't think we need to add another day just for a few bucks.
Dennis?
Well, you're not adding another day, you're just saying you can buy it before noon on Sunday.
Yeah.
You're adding 5 hours to the sale.
Yeah.
I mean, are we allowed to pick the hours? I mean, because right now, liquor sales can start at noon, right?
Yes.
So now they've pushed it to 7 a.m., but the way this is phrased, it sounds like we can prohibit it all day Sunday if we wish. I mean, are we allowed to say, well, we don't want to start it at 7, but we'll start it at 9
10.
or start it at 1 or whatever?
Yeah, I guess I don't know the answer to that. I sent it to Bob. You know, this is not real clear to me in terms of what their intent was, and I don't have an answer to that yet.
Because, I mean, it's possible it might be an all or nothing question.
See, you can allow, for example, they've got it split beer and wine, but not hard liquor. But regardless, I don't think it's something we need to do.
In that case, and I realize you're just kind of throwing that out there, but I don't know that I'd see a difference between 7 and 9, and just to make it more, uniform.
My question is whether, whether we can pick and choose our times or whether it's all or nothing.
Yeah,
Well, I
and
think
I don't
you
know.
should allow beer and-
Because the way his letter is written, it sounds like we can opt out all day Sunday, but it doesn't say that we can pick and choose, the hours.
I don't think you can.
So it's a question to make sure Bob looks at, that's all.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I would find it hard to believe that the state would want to be in a position where they allow different counties
Different
throughout the
rules.
state to have a different set of rules when they're trying to issue licenses. My guess is, it would make more sense that it's all or none, and that you can't pick and choose,
Right.
but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, I think this, Sonny, would be on top of, it would delete the noon to 2 a.m. on Monday. It would be replaced by 7.
Yeah, I think what it's going to, if this passes is, well, in fact, it's already passed unless we opt out, I think it makes the legal sale of alcohol from 7 a.m. till 2 a.m. every day throughout the week. Because you currently can't buy liquor between 2 a.m., on any evening or early morning till 7 a.m. From 2 a.m. to 5 or 7 a.m., it's consistently illegal to buy liquor.
So essentially unifying the code.
It's basically adding the 5 hours that is currently prohibited on Sunday mornings
It makes every day of the
make
week
it
the same.
from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. the next morning, every day of the week. And the state's going to charge a premium license for those facilities that choose to sell in those 5 hours.
Yeah, all it is a money grab. And I think we have enough problems with alcohol as it is without extending it.
Yeah, we have businesses going out of business and restaurants closing.
So I had a question. Are we on to a different topic now?
Yeah, let's move on.
We can? Yes.
Are you done with your administrators?
No.
Okay.
I had a meeting with Bruce Ramai yesterday. Building is bumping up. We're seeing activity this fall that's better than the last 2 years. Our revenues since September have been up each month from the last 2 years. We expect that this budget will come in, I think we had anticipated using $280,000 of fund balance. We're about $250,000 under in expenses, and our revenues are up. We're not sure if we'll use any of the fund balance for this year's budget, but the important part of this is we're seeing activity both in commercial, but also in new home construction. Bruce said the new home construction isn't as strong as it was in September and October, but there's still permits being issued for new homes. But on the big commercial front, just to give you an idea, we have a 70,000 square foot addition to Haggerty that's anticipated to happen next year. The Meyer Building in Acme, which is, I think, 7,000 square feet less than what originally proposed. They're out surveying now for that building, and they anticipate, Bruce has met with them 3 or 4 times, they anticipate that moving forward. The new affordable housing complex at the Commons is moving forward. That's been sold by Mr. Minervini, and that's going to be affordable housing, and they're already putting together permits on that project, which is a large project. And the Hotel Indigo will either be moving forward this fall or this winter or next spring. So we have 4 major commercial projects coming next year. Bruce feels cautiously optimistic that we may have hit the bottom and we're starting to turn the corner a little bit. You know, you don't know for sure, but those 4 big commercial projects are big. I also want to point out that we're ahead of last year's revenues, and last year's revenue, I'm drawing a blank right at the moment, we had one really large commercial project that boosted those up and and we're still above that, and we had none of those big projects this year. So things are looking up a little bit in the building department, and I wanted you to be aware of that. I just want to, a couple things here. First, Commission on Aging evidently took action yesterday. They are concerned with your, this is a heads up, they're concerned with your not reappointing 2 of their board members that were incumbents, and they've written a letter asking you to they're going to ask you to reconsider. They passed a motion to ask you to reconsider your appointments. Frankly, I don't know that it's in their purview to do that, but just giving you this as a heads up, they asked for all of your phone numbers, and I expect you're going to be hearing from Commission on Aging representatives. So that's just a heads up for you.
Just comment on that briefly. I was on the subcommittee along with Larry and Mike, and we had terrific interviews by all of the applicants, and we had 5 spaces to fill on the Commission on Aging. And as always, you're trying to balance recognizing the commitment and service that ongoing board members have had and continue to, be willing to contribute, as well with balancing that with people who have expressed new interest and have great backgrounds as well and something to add. And we kept that in mind when we went through those interviews. How are we going to balance that and make the best decisions for the Commission on Aging? And I would stand by those recommendations and say that, I think that we made some good choices in those subcommittee meeting.
I think this board's very thorough, and you've refined your interview process considerably, and I think you make very good decisions in that regard. And I think it's a mistake to always assume that because you're an incumbent that you're going to be reappointed. That's not always going to be the case.
Well, I would agree 100% with Beth's comments.
Larry?
Just so you know, I was going to save it for the Commissioner's report, but we're hopeful to have the ad hoc committee that is involved in the application or the appointment policy. Chris is trying to see if we can meet one final time on, I think, Tuesday the 14th, so we can get the proposed policy to everyone here to be adopted by the end of the month. But one of the provisions is we've had an extensive discussion about looking at the 12-year limit. And, there are some exceptions to the 12-year limit based on critical need of the committee and those kinds of things. But I just want to make you aware that there was some thought with regard to, the amount of time that individuals can serve on a board, and then they can apply for another board or go off and then come back on or whatever. But we haven't reached that conclusion yet. And the other thing that I sent Dennis a remark on was that, it kind of places, you trust in and obviously I agree with the recommendation coming in from the committee on this particular situation, but we have to think about the individuals that that are coming in as part of the recommendation. I mean, how do you actually go back to those individuals and say, well, no, we decided that, we're going to do something different. It's not really fair for them. They went through the interview process like everyone else. They were selected, they were recommended, they're coming to the board. I mean, I don't see that there's a way that, you can go back unless there was really something unusual that occurred to reverse a recommendation. And I've never seen it happen in 18 years that I've been on the board. So, what is what is. We can thank them for their service, and they're more than welcome to apply at the next opening.
Okay.
Next item is, we've been working, I think we sent you drafts of the 2 senior center agreements. There will be 2 separate senior center agreements. One will be an interim agreement for the first 6 months of 2011, and that'll be the time when the city still maintains control and oversight on the operation of the merger of the senior center into the County Commission on Aging. That application, or that temporary agreement was reviewed by Commission on Aging and approved unanimously yesterday. I anticipate bringing that to you next week for your consideration with their recommendation. The city will consider it next Monday, and that will just pertain to the first 6 months of 2011. The longer agreement, the more permanent agreement for the length of the millage, Ben and I have negotiated that as well, and that's in final draft, and we've gone back with 3 or 4 renditions. The city's made some changes. But we expect to have that to the Commission on Aging in the next month, and then back to you probably in January for your consideration of the long-term Commission on Aging agreement with the city. I think we've worked out a real amicable arrangement, and I think it will work well. The next thing I wanted to point out, I just want to get a clarification from you, and this is on the health insurance copay for our employees, I'm thinking particularly about part-time employees. Okay, our employees will pay a 4 or a 6% copay on health insurance next year. Okay, our part-time employees, and our policy says if you're part-time, your insurance can be paid at whatever percentage you're part-time. So if insurance costs $1,000 a month and you work half-time, you'll get $500 a month of it paid, before the 4% I'm talking about. You'll get $500 of it paid, and you have to pay the other $500 yourself. That's how our insurance works. Does everybody kind of understand that part of it? So now, take that same example, and now we're going to apply the 4% number to it. Okay? It seems to me that what's reasonable there is if they work half-time and it's $1,000, they pay the $500 that they're not eligible for their half-time, and we should apply 4% to the other $500. And I just want to clarify if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some have interpreted that you need to apply 4% to the whole 1,000 and then make them pay $500, but then you're paying 4% on the $500 that you're paying yourself. So it seems to me that they pay their $500, and then that we apply a 4% surcharge to whatever we're paying towards their insurance. Does that make sense to the board?
I think that's the way to go.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that. And the last thing that we have is just a reminder, tomorrow morning is the breakfast with the employees. Commissioners are all invited. 8 o'clock in the cafeteria, and we hope that several of you will be able to make it. I know Commissioner Inman's out of town, but hopefully several of you will be able to be there.
You sure it's 8 o'clock?
Yes.
Yeah.
Calendar says 9 o'clock.
It said 9, but then we got a notice
8
that
o'clock.
there was
I just
change
going by
to
what
8.
you published.
Yep, I'm sorry.
I got it.
Well, it's employees who I think have also, they're new employees, but employees who have met anniversary dates. I think we'll have some of our volunteers there as well. Yeah, it's a pretty big group tomorrow, so if you can make it, it would be great to see you there. And that's what I have on my list.
Okay, Beth, we have some questions?
First of all, just as you were talking to, I looked a little bit further at this Commission on Aging email that you gave us, and she wanted to know if it was okay to send out the Board of Commissioners list. Our contact information is completely public.
I sent her back an email and said, everything's on the web, everybody, it's public information, of course,
Okay.
yeah.
The other thing, I just had a quick question on that Employee Assistance Program renewal. Just noticed what it said basically here is the services that have steadily increased using those, and I was wondering, is that just an awareness of the program? Is that the quality of services they provide, or what do you attribute that to?
I think, I don't think it's a matter of awareness, although, we constantly let the employees know. I think it's a matter of the times we live in.
Okay.
The economy,
That's what I was wondering.
financial issues, the stress, things we've gone through on the budget. I think it's a whole lot of things, It just, there's a lot of stress on people now, and people are taking more advantage. And we really want to encourage them to take advantage of it, because in the long run, it saves us.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And that's all I had.
All right, then we can move on to 9, unfinished business. We have, presenting this,
Terry Quinn
Can be
from
addressed.
Circuit Court is here to talk about the request for position. Terry, you want to come up? And Jen, they may have some questions of you that you need to answer.
Good morning.
Morning.
Circuit Court Administration has requested a staffing plan to delete a Circuit Court Specialist and add a Deputy Court Administrator. We have met with Jen regarding the classification and have agreed at a grade I, level 2. And I don't know if you have any questions regarding that position. We have, we met, I think, twice, and this is the 3rd time that we've come back.
What's the difference in cost?
This is page 37 and 38 of your packet.
Yeah, I don't see where it
I don't see a dollar amount for
dollars.
Or I guess the simpler question is this financially in their 2011 budget?
I'll let Terry answer that.
We, in addition to this position, we have eliminated another Circuit Court Specialist position. We had a staff person leave, I believe it was in February, and are not filling that position, so we have more than enough money in our personnel line item to cover that.
And that position you're talking about is the one mentioned in here, right?
There's actually,
Oh, there's 2.
we're going to eliminate one position and promote a person to a deputy, and then we also have a position that is left open.
Okay.
And will remain left open?
And that will be left open through 2011.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and I'll have Dean clarify that for Ways and Means. I know there's enough money to cover it this year, but I think we removed the position into the budget in 2011, so I'm not sure that revenue, the appropriation is still there for that position, and I can't remember whether Dean anticipated this increase for the 2011 or not, but I'll get that clarified. It's a couple $1,000s, I believe, and I'm sure we can cover it within the budget.
Yep, the grade I, step 2, is within the county's compensation promotion policy as well. So I can go, I actually have the figures upstairs. I apologize, they weren't in the packet, but I can easily grab those.
Mr. Chairman,
if
I
you'd
would
like them.
move to add a deputy court administrator classification to the county's classification plan into grade I as outlined by the HR department.
You want to add the other half about
Support.
eliminating the...
Yeah, which also eliminates the circuit court specialist.
they moved by Wheelock, supported by Thomas. Any further discussion?
Is this,
Well, we have there's a new job, adding it to, because this is a new position, adding it to the classification plan, and then there's the staffing amendment change of adding it, so I just want to make sure we're
Yeah, so
taking care
we'll,
of both
so the
items
first
separate.
motion should be to eliminate the circuit court specialist and add the deputy court administrator.
Okay, and we have a motion and support for that. Further discussion?
and Jen and Dennis, do you recommend this request?
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Now we have a second step in this.
Mr. Chairman, on page 38, there's a recommendation to add the deputy court administrator classification to the county's classification plan.
Support.
Moved by Wheelock, supported by Richardson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're on to the baseball. Item B.
Jason, you're going to have to turn the TVs on, too.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to table this for one more month, please.
Because, I mean, got support by Richardson, is that what I heard?
I guess I don't understand why we would table it.
I had a couple of requests. Commissioner Max Bauer asked that we table it until she would be present in January. And one of the new incoming commissioners also asked the same thing.
Did I hear support?
I think Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah,
Richardson supported the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Felice, supported by Richardson. Any further discussion?
There should be no discussion or motion to table.
Oh, that's right.
Roll call.
We have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Stefka?
Yes.
Friend?
No.
Inman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Fleece?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Chairman Hooper?
No.
Motion carries.
5-3.
Yep, okay, motion carries, it'll be tabled. Thank you, Jason, for your time.
Well, actually, if I can just comment quickly, I'd like to thank Jason for the survey that he did of the coaches and of the parents. I think he did a nice job on the survey, and it gives you a lot of information.
Okay, I guess that moves us right along then. New business,
It's just a discussion.
and we have a second opportunity for public comment. Anybody represent the board at this time, please step forward. Seeing none, we can, committee reports. Larry?
On behalf of Dick and I, we'd like to encourage those folks that haven't completed Dennis's evaluation, if you can get that in as quick as possible. We're kind of hoping that we would have a summary of Ways and Means for everyone. I remember last year, it didn't happen until the board meeting. We still had some leftover at the Ways and Means meeting. So let's see if we can, if that's possible, to get that in as soon as possible.
And that gets turned into administration.
Yeah.
To Katie.
To Katie, please. And then she'll work with Dick and I to put it on a grid, and we'll have and all those comments typed out like we did last year. And Katie did send out the interest for assignments for next year, so we can create a spreadsheet and we can deal with that at the organizational meeting, so the standing commissioners at that time can take a look at where everyone's interest is, and then we can try to handle that at the organizational meeting.
Excuse me, Larry, question. We developed in the last couple of days a grid that kind of laid out all the positions. Did everybody get a copy of that?
Ed,
I didn't.
you did not?
It was requested by new commissioners, and I just wondered if we sent it to all of
By
you.
email or?
Katie said she sent out a lit, there was Chris sent out one sheet showing all the present assignments,
And then
Oh,
one-
yeah.
and on the other attachment there was a line for you to check and put your name on and either print and come
Well, we
back and
just did
drop it
a
off.
matrix yesterday that showed an explanation of each board.
Yeah, that has it.
Okay, I'll make sure that that's all sent to you today.
Yeah, the new
so you all have
commissioner
a
had
copy of
asked
it.
for a description on some of the boards.
Does the matrix include a discussion, general meeting times?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I think there's 42 appointments that you make.
So, did everyone get that email from Chris?
On
If
the
you could-
matrix?
I got
The first
I got
one.
the
The
list of
first one,
committee.
yeah.
I'll make sure you have the matrix today.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and
Okay.
one other question in regards to this.
Yes.
Is there any discussion where a county commissioner is required to be a member of this board as opposed to, we could either appoint ourselves or appoint somebody else?
Oh, I see. That's totally up to the board. I know, like in the commission.
Well, it's totally up to the board unless a county commissioner is required
Well,
by some sort of statute or something.
yeah, for example, on the Commission on Aging, we allow them to have the county commissioners, we allow one of their board members to have the county commissioner's seat on the north, the.
Council Association on Aging.
Yeah,
The
correct.
area.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
I think
that's it.
I think that's the only
But for
one.
instance, like, let's take the airport commission.
Yes, that's a county commissioner position.
That's by ordinance or statute or
Yes.
whatever. And I think the same would be true of Beta.
Correct.
Or not, I don't know.
Yeah, their county commissioner is assigned unless the county commissioner wishes to appoint a general public matter to represent us, is how we've handled those.
You know, it's a good point, though, and I don't think that's ever been done, and that probably should be added to the matrix. I think that's a good
I
point.
mean, it may take a while. I mean, send
Yeah.
the matrix out, and then if more information is forthcoming, that would be fine.
For example, the EDC appointment says it can be a county commissioner or the county administrator.
Right.
So there are choices in some of those. I know you're right.
Already talked about the ad hoc committee on appointments. Hopefully, we get that completed and done. Beth has been kind enough to sit on this, and then she joined the committee when Max Bauer went to, on her vacation. And I want to publicly thank Commissioner Richardson for kind of, in some cases, doing double duty on filling in for claims. I know that there's been a couple conflicts that he's graciously volunteered to fill in on a couple times, so.
It's because he asked me again yesterday.
Yeah, and I begged and I thanked him. So he's going to fill in for me on 12/28, so I'll let Chris know about that this morning. And then we had, Sonny, you might want to remark, because you were the chairman of the tribal applications, but, it was really enlightening to see the various agencies in town and how they have an impact on everyone's lives with these tribal grants. But I don't know if, Sonny, you were the chairman of the committee, if you wanted to make a remark about that.
Yeah, I was going to when you get done. I believe we had 14 applications yesterday for 2% money for the Grand Traverse Band, 2% money for, this would be the February allocation, I believe. Doesn't come out in February, I believe.
I think the money is distributed in February.
I'm sorry?
Was it down from last year?
I think the number of applications may be down a little bit, or at least it was down from this spring.
Yeah.
But I know that one of the things that, and I mentioned to the applicants yesterday, I could be wrong, but I believe the allocation of money is going to be down significantly too. Because like we've run about $2 million per allocation. And if my memory's right, the last spring it was like $970,000. So it was significantly down.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see. Some really good organizations that do a lot of great things in our community were here and applied. And, it makes it tough to rank them. And, but I do want to recognize the tribe's willingness to allow us to at least have some input. Each of the three commissioners ranked these applicants under the following criteria: whether they engage the community, they address a community need, they demonstrate the impact, evidence of innovation, evidence of collaboration, demonstrates need, Grand Traverse County population served, evidence of long-term funding plan, alignment with the county's mission and vision, and demonstrates accountability for funds. One of the things that we noticed with a number of these agencies is they work in 5-6 counties. One of the questions that I asked repeatedly was, okay, how many Grand Traverse County residents do you affect? Because for this board, I believe we have to make sure we address, Grand Traverse County residents, not how many people they serve in Kalkaska. So, but, they were great applications. The interviews went well. We started at, we were about 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
About that. So it was really good. I was very pleased. That's all I have, so.
I have a question, actually probably more for Dennis on that. Last year, you mentioned the input of the county commission. I think that last round was the first time.
Mhm.
Was there any correlation between the awards that were granted and the rankings?
I don't know.
There was some correlation, but they did not match up. Several of the ones that we ranked high did not get funded.
Yeah, and a couple of them that we ranked very low did
Get
receive
funded.
great funding.
The other thing I want to point out in regards to the numbers, remember that this was the year that they changed the way they did allocations. In past years, the spring allocation, the June allocation was an education allocation, and the fall was government. This year, they changed it to everything, both times. So it may be that some of those that would normally have come in December went in the June allocation, and so they won't show up till next year in June. That could be one of the reasons that it was down.
Well, and remember that there may be other applications that will come by endorsement through the townships or through the schools
Or
that we
the city.
didn't see.
That's right. It could be through any municipality, so there very well may be others like that.
Okay, anything else? We move on to notices and announcements. Richard?
Except
Oh, right, we have the
upstairs after this is over.
upstairs?
Yeah, you got a committee meeting.
In room 300, you have a meeting, and then there's a group of commissioners that will be meeting with judges too, as well,
11.
today, so just a reminder of that. I think that's Commissioner Fleece, Richardson, and Wheelock.
All right.
If you guys need bail money, let me know.
We got Mike now, so.
Huh?
There's no bail.
pass a hat.
There's no bail on contempt.
We'll pass a hat on bail money.
If you're arrested, let me get a picture of you behind bars before they actually bail you. I'd like to have that.
Might be better than going into the dunk tank.
Actually, I think that's how you would get the money, is to show them in jail.
And no closed session?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Gotta figure out what hat you wear.
Thanks, Jen.